Today I'm going to be having Heisei Godzilla go toe-to-toe with SpongeBob SquarePants. I'll be scaling each of them in their own parts, going over who would win different categories. Starting off with physical strength, I'm going to come right out and say it, Godzilla is physically stronger than SpongeBob. Yes, I know SpongeBob can unravel his entire universe with his bare hands. And yes, I know he can do even more insane stuff with that, going all the way up to 6D level feats. However, Godzilla, by the start of Godzilla vs. Destroy, is pretty casually in 6D, and with the multipliers, which do stack to his strength, by the way, he is automatically above this. Well, I can't explain how he's at that. You have to really just look at Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Space Godzilla is using 4D attacks. He's able to destroy the Godzilla universe, which is 4D. Godzilla gets an amp towards the end of that movie. That official guide statement's put at an infinity above Space Godzilla. By the time he's burning, he's arguably an infinity above that. And then you add the infinite heat ray, which adds an infinite multiplier upon every time it's used, and the fact he can spam it, you pretty much got him being massively above 6D, putting his physical strength above that of SpongeBob's. When you go to Hack's abilities, this one's obviously for SpongeBob. He can make armies using a pencil. He can erase you from existence using the magic pencil. He can make armies of sand, armies of living bubbles. He can change reality using reality warping / Toon Force. And he just has some really busted abilities, mostly evolving around him being a cartoon character. Now, it's not to say Godzilla doesn't have any hacks, he just doesn't have hacks on that level. That said, his power can counter the vast majority of SpongeBob's hacks. And then we get into overall skill. This one is extremely straightforward. While SpongeBob is skilled, Godzilla is a far more experienced and far more skilled fighter, and easily takes this category. An even more obvious category goes to regeneration. Well, Godzilla can regenerate from basically being split in half, and can arguably regenerate from a single cell if you really want to go crazy with it. SpongeBob can straight up come back from being erased entirely. That includes his soul being erased, according to a lot of pretty heavy indicators that he could just survive being completely gone. Everything from his mind, body, and soul. In fact, it's even hinted at that he can survive just being erased from fiction. So, SpongeBob is essentially unkillable. Godzilla, while killable, he still has some pretty substantial regeneration. When we go to durability, however, it's fairly obvious. Although SpongeBob can regenerate a lot better than Godzilla, he also takes far more damage far easier than Godzilla. It's pretty rare we even see Heisei Godzilla bleed. And you have to remember, Heisei Godzilla's fighting far more powerful opponents than most of what SpongeBob's fighting. And SpongeBob has taken damage from opponents that wouldn't even be able to make Heisei Godzilla move. So, it's fairly obvious who's winning durability here. When it comes to size, this one's just... SpongeBob starts out tiny, but he can get bigger by absorbing water. Godzilla starts out bigger, but SpongeBob can get bigger. It's basically their draw, because one is either way little or way bigger, one stays the same. This is where things get pretty interesting, is when we look at speed. Because one character has far better travel speed, whereas another has way better reaction speed. SpongeBob obviously is faster than Godzilla when it comes to travel speed. He's traveled across his entire universe at just downright insane speeds. He can actually reach infinite speeds if you look at the fact he can travel in spaces where time simply does not exist. And it's also heavily implied he's beyond infinite speed in some of his more insane feats that involve him literally changing the plot of his own show. When you look at Godzilla, although his travel speed is pretty slow, his reaction speed is incredibly high. He's dodged infinite speed crystals, dodged attacks that are even faster than that, and his reaction speed does get amped with his physical strength and atomic power, meaning that the infinite heat ray would add an infinite boost to his speed. So when it comes to travel speed, Godzilla is definitely getting outmatched by SpongeBob. When it comes to reaction speed, SpongeBob is going to have a lot of trouble keeping up with Godzilla. When it goes to IQ, this one's a draw. Yes, SpongeBob's more human-like and has a lot more, human qualities. He thinks more like a human would. That said, he's usually portrayed as a moron. Yes, he's shown some pretty decent strategies before, but nothing that's really better than what Godzilla's shown, so it's a draw. When it comes to battle IQ, I would really like to hear someone's argument on when they say SpongeBob has a better battle IQ than Godzilla. He doesn't. That's insane to even think that. SpongeBob is not a fighter. While he can fight, he is not a fighter by nature. Godzilla is a warrior, and that's pretty much all it does is kill other kaiju. Another category is abilities. This one is the trickiest to figure out. Godzilla's abilities include regeneration, atomic breath, red spiral ray, infinite heat ray, blue nuclear pulse, red nuclear pulse, radiation absorption, energy absorption, burning form, amped form, essentially just when he absorbs enough nuclear radiation to just amp himself even further, and partial, like the ability to drain energy through biting, sorta ish. It may or may not be a thing he can do. When it comes to SpongeBob, he can self-replicate himself, regenerate from basically anything, use reality manipulation, make armies of sand, bubbles, or using the magic pencil to make drawings of anything and bring them into reality, erase things from existence with the magic pencil, and much, much, much more. However, I have to give abilities to Godzilla for one single reason. And it's because most of SpongeBob's abilities can be easily countered just by Godzilla being there. Yes, the pencil may seem like an instant win at first until you realize its durability is straight up confirmed to be that of a normal pencil. A single blast from Godzilla would take the pencil out of the fight permanently. And SpongeBob really doesn't have a way to counter Godzilla's atomic breath, just because Godzilla's power far outclasses SpongeBob's. And although SpongeBob can survive pretty much anything Godzilla throws at him, it doesn't mean his body's not literally getting erased every time he's getting hit. And that goes for his weapons and any armies he decides to make. And even if he does try to just reality warp Godzilla can just blow up the reality that SpongeBob's warping. He has more than enough power to do so and can likely survive the blast if he needed to. Ultimately, this fight is one that there really would never be a winner to. As the only way you can argue Godzilla could kill SpongeBob is if you argue SpongeBob cannot come back without his soul, which it's very possible that he can just regenerate his soul. Just judging by the fact he's literally been unraveled from reality before. But if you do argue that, the only way you can really argue Heisei Godzilla can destroy souls is if you argue when he destroyed his universe that included souls, or if you argue that his atomic power should somehow be connected to G and K, who we know can affect human souls, sorta. You also argue that it's connected to Mothra, who might also have that ability, but ultimately it's kind of tricky to say for sure Godzilla can just erase souls with his atomic breath. That said, SpongeBob likely cannot even kill Godzilla, no matter how hard he tried, even if you say, what if he just unravels him? The second he grabs the string, Godzilla's nuclear pulsing him, he's erased. He's going to regenerate, but he can't get close enough to kill Godzilla. There's nothing he can do that would put Godzilla down. Even if he went absolutely insane, tried every trick in the book, Godzilla is just simply too powerful for SpongeBob to bring down. And SpongeBob's just too immortal for Godzilla to permanently kill. I know there's a lot of people out there that seem to think SpongeBob can win any fight, and this goes for anybody they consider a gag character. People think Bugs Bunny, SpongeBob, even Mickey Mouse can win essentially any fight through just Toon Force. What people seem to forget is that Toon Force is not an instant win. For one thing, it requires the character to see what it's doing as amusing. What about fighting Godzilla is amusing? Usually not much, so I don't really see SpongeBob getting a kick out of fighting a literal embodiment of a nuclear bomb. Another thing people seem to forget is just because you have Toon Force doesn't mean you automatically upscale whoever you're fighting, or that you can just magically get feats on their level out of the blue. Even Toon Force has feats. That means it has limits. Something people seem to just throw out the window whenever a Toon Force character is in a fight. We know that characters with Toon Force can be beaten by characters without it. Dragon Ball has shown this with Beerus and Arale. In fact, it's even pretty understandable that Toon Force should just be considered hacks if you really look at what Toon Force does. It's just reality warping. That is all it is. But people seem to think it's Toon Force, so that means they win. The logic in that is not only flawed, but I don't even see how people got that idea to begin with. And honestly, it's just annoying. End of the day, SpongeBob does not have the feats to back up him magically beating Godzilla, or really any character on Burning or Heisei Godzilla's level. And there's a lot of characters on his level that people seem to think SpongeBob casually beats. So, no, SpongeBob does not win. Godzilla does not win. Nobody can win a fight when you can't kill your opponent. The only way any of them could win is if you give Godzilla the benefit of a doubt and assume that SpongeBob can't regenerate his soul, which he definitely can, by the way. And then you just assume Godzilla one-shot SpongeBob. Or if you assume SpongeBob somehow magically pulls some feats out of his ass and Godzilla has to use the meltdown and it just magically fails to kill SpongeBob. Either way, both of those make very little sense, throw most logic out the window, and require some pretty heavy bias on one character or the other. So, my personal opinion, they just get bored of trying to kill each other and just leave. They just walk away. Anyways, that's my piece on this. Bye.